Good morning, everyone. I made a slight miscalculation. I thought the party was yesterday, so I thought you wouldn't be here. Um, I do have a couple of questions before we start, so I just get a feel for this. First of all, if you have been following parts or any of my posts on Mastodon on this topic, raise your hand, please. Okay, welcome. This is the short version. All right, if you have like Team Topology and stuff like that in your company, anybody? All right. I take absolutely no responsibility for anything that I say today, and if you bring it back to your company, it's probably not going to be good. Somebody on LinkedIn said I was brave yesterday, which is not a good sign, just so you know. All right, so let's get going. All right, so welcome to my talk, The Fundamental Misunderstanding in Team Topologies. All right, so content warning, I really don't like this book. Really don't like this book. I also paid for it twice, which actually pisses me off. I have 2 threads on Mastodon, together around 200 posts, on exactly what I don't like about this book. If you feel that I am not going enough in depth in this talk, there's a whole other kind of side quest there for anyone who would like to go there. All right, so this is actually a quote from one of my posts on my first thread, which I wrote the first time I read it last year. I posit that this book is a result of a bunch of folks who are personally struggling to understand how anything is ever built by anyone. Yeah, so that was past Patricia, May 23rd, 2024. Okay, so who am I? And I usually don't go this far in this slide. This is kind of awkward, but it matters. So it's a little bit over the top. So my name is Patricia Aas. I'm a trainer, consultant, whatever, programmer. I've been programming in C++, C, Kotlin, Java, TypeScript, JavaScript, Python, Bash, whatever. I don't know. Whatever you give me, I program in. I've been programming in everything from React to assembly for 25 years. I have built browsers, physical, embedded products, web apps, APIs, backends, build systems. My first job was at Opera Software, working on the original Opera browser, and then I was like a Java consultant, and then I built an embedded video conferencing equipment, and then I was at Vivaldi doing a browser again, and currently I'm working for my own company, which I co-founded, called TurtleSec. In the past few months, I've done assembly, Kotlin, C++, C, and React. And I'm not saying all of this to brag, but I'm saying that I know how to ship products and I've been doing it for a while. So this isn't me talking as like somebody who just has an opinion. I've actually done this for a long time. And I have done lots of different kinds of products. So I haven't done 25 years of making a web app. I've done 25 years of making a lot of different things. All right. So, okay, first of all, this is a difficult question. I was going to say how many of you have read the book, but the thing is the book is practically unreadable, so I'm not going to ask you. How many of you own a copy of this book? All right, okay, good. All right, so the thing is, I really struggled the first time I read this book. I really struggled to try to figure out what is it they're trying to say. It didn't actually like fully land with me until this time when I read it in like post number like 120 of that thread, all right? But the fundamental thesis of the book is actually quite simple, right? First of all, the optimal architecture is microservices. They only know about 2 architectures, so it's fine. But it's all right. There's only 2. They only know. And the second one is we can force an organization to produce microservices by doing a reorg and then disallowing communication, like fundamentally controlling how people are allowed to communicate. And this, they love this. This is like the whole epiphany of this entire book. So, and then I was reading, you know, the people on LinkedIn who said I was brave. I didn't post about this on LinkedIn, okay? Somebody else posted about it on LinkedIn. And somebody said, oh, it doesn't say in the book that you're not supposed to talk to people. So, thank you, Mr. LinkedIn. You gave me some slides. So, from the conclusion of Team Topologies, let's have a read. In other words, restructuring teams and facilitating or potentially deliberately limiting communication between teams. Or Chapter 2 of Team Topologies, which has a similar one in the conclusion. A simple way to restrict communications is to move 2 teams to different parts of the office, different floors, or even different buildings. Can't have people talking. Or, Chapter 2, Team Topologies, many-to-many communication, like chat, like think Slack or Teams or whatever, will tend to produce monolithic, tangled, highly coupled, interdependent systems. An important context for this is that they use monolithic as basically a synonym for anything they don't like. So anything that they don't like, it's monolithic. Which means, like, you know, I tended to use it a bit sarcastically on the internet, saying that is totally monolithic behavior. Anybody want to guess what the other architecture they know? All right, so, not to end there, we have more quotes. All right. Chapter 2, Team Topologies. Fast flow requires restricting communications between teams. So I guess this is fine. Okay, Chapter 2. Team Topologies. We need to look for unexpected communications and address the clause. People spoke to each other. We need to figure out what precipitated this event. We need to make sure it never happens again. This is unacceptable. This monolithic talking thing needs to stop. And the thing is, the thing that I thought about when I saw this particular quote here is a completely different thing. It's from UX, it's old. I tried to find the picture for it, but I couldn't find the picture. So I found a different picture, and it kind of shows the same thing. It's this picture. So this is I think it's like the park between university buildings and some kind of American university. But what I want you to have a look at are the paths here. You see that there's only mostly the middle path that is paved or kind of structured, and all of the other ones are just not just people walking to buildings. And you can kind of see where they're going to. So you can see that they're walking from a certain direction to a certain building. This is a concept from user experience, from way in the beginning of user experience. And it was the idea that you need to figure out how people use your product, because it might not be the thing that you expect. And then as you discover the way that they use your product, you try to make those things easier to do. So it's only once you see the paths, only once they're downtrodden and you can see the lines, only then do you pave the paths. Because that's when you know where they should be. And that's the opposite, right? If I end up in a situation, I hope I never end up in this situation, but if I end up in a situation where I actually care who's talking to whom, fingers crossed, and unexpected groups are talking to each other, I think what I want to know isn't how can I make them stop, right? What I want to know is what have you found out that I don't know? Because you are talking for a reason. There's a reason why you need to communicate. So you know something I don't know. If I think that you're not, like you wouldn't need to communicate, and you are communicating, there is a reason why, right? And that reason might be really important. It might actually reveal something about our product, it might reveal something about our architecture, it might reveal something about stuff I don't know, right? And maybe that's really important. Maybe that is actually something that we should pave, right? And yeah, anyway, you should stop talking. That's monolithic behavior. All right, so quick recap for anybody who didn't read the book. You don't have to read the book. This is one slide. It's all over after this one slide. You'll be good. And then you can look at all the pretty pictures. By the way, I wrote like 160 posts going through this entire book from start to finish, starting 9 days ago. On Mastodon, you can read the whole thing if you want. But it's not really hard, so we can do it in one slide. All right, so this is a picture from their conclusion. So this is their whole, this is like, they have presented this core ideas of Team Topologies. And one thing, I did say something nice in my thread. I just want to point that out. I said that the graphical designer is really good, and he is. Like, this is really good. Like, all of the pictures, really good. He made like a whole slide set template or something, and it's all really good. It's like the best thing about the book is the graphical designer. So shout out to, I don't remember his name, but very good. I think he's British. Anyway, all right, so Team Topologies, what are topologies? Topologies are types, okay? So when they say team topologies, they mean team types or types of teams, right? 4 fundamental team types. Stream, platform, enabling, and complicated. It's actually a complicated subsystem, but it's a small bubble, so we're going to go with that. Stream is a feature/cross-platform or a cross-functional team. Platform is a platform team. Enabling is a consulting team. So it could be like somebody with a specialized, or like a group of people with specialized knowledge that you can like pull in that have special competence in something. What is probably normal would be maybe a security team, right? That they come by and they help you with stuff or whatever. They have a weird hang up with DBAs in the book. So that could also be in here. Because they definitely got fired from the streaming teams. I'm telling you, they are all over the book. So they do not like DBAs. I'm sorry, if you're a DBA, these people don't like you. Then you have complicated subsystem is basically, oh my God, there are people who know stuff that doesn't fit into the other teams. So they ended up there. For anything that can't, like, they couldn't actually call it complicated, they kind of fall down and become part of platform. So whatever, it becomes platform very quickly. Even enabling teams, like there was like a section about like, oh, we have like DBA enabling teams, but then woof, and now they're in platform, and now they're doing like cloud databases. So platform is sort of like a catch-all. Like if you fall through the other teams, you kind of end up in platform, which is good. We can all be platform. It's good. Then we don't have to worry about this. All right, next. So we have topology evolution. That's team type evolution. That means we are reorging after the reorg, because it might turn out that we want to reorg you again. Or as they would say, your team type or your topology might change over time. Okay, and then you have team interaction modes or team comm modes. That is how you are allowed to communicate with other teams. They are collaboration, X as a service, or facilitating. They don't like collaboration. Collaboration is your talking. You should not be talking. That is monolithic behavior. That is an exception, and if you do that too much, we will have to investigate. You are allowed to use another team's stuff as a service, or somebody can come and teach you. That's more or less facilitating. But the whole talking, like free-form talking stuff, no. We don't do that anymore. Team first, they don't want to talk about people, so they talk about teams. They really don't like individuals. Individuals are not cool. They basically, the only times they mention individuals is to say that they don't like it. So you are, the smallest unit they feel comfortable with is a team, which can be of the size 5, 8, 9, 15, or something. It's a little bit unclear. We'll get back to that. All right, Team API. That's because you're not talking, right? So now you need an API, because nobody can talk to you, but you can have a wiki page where they can look and read about you. So there you will have all of your documentation for all your internal APIs, because nobody in your organization can talk to you about your API or ask you how to use your API. That is not allowed. You will have to document it so that they can read the docs. And if they don't like the docs, they shouldn't be talking to you about it. They should submit a JIRA or something to complain about the docs, and then, that's how we do this. Yeah. Team API, it's awesome. It's instead of talking, because talking is monolithic behavior. All right, then we have organizational sensing. It took me a long time. Okay, so it took me a long time to realize what some of these words mean, because I talked to someone who wrote a technical book once, and they said, oh, editors are awesome, because editors will tell you that, when you write about something, they'll say, oh, but you haven't defined this term before, so you have to, this is the first time you talk about this term, you have to define it now. They did not have those kinds of editors. So we found out what a stream was in chapter 5. I guess skip to chapter 5. But they were talking about it for 4 chapters before. Organizational sensing, they were talking about, we did not know what it was until, I want to say chapter 9. So actually that is referring to something that I became weirdly obsessed with last year, which is something called cybernetics, which is really old and kind of cool and weird. And if anybody wants to talk about it, that's cool. There's a really good book that actually goes into this, which everybody thinks is about something else, which is called Unaccountability Machine. Everybody reads the part about the unaccountability machine, which is like the first third of the book, but the last 2/3 of the book are the good parts. So yes, really good book, talks a lot about cybernetics. Anyway, it's Kubernetes. That's why Kubernetes is called Kubernetes. It's because of cybernetics. It comes from the same Greek word, it's just a different spelling, which I realized last year when I wrote about the other book. And someone on Mastodon said, who was Greek, told me, that's the same word, Patricia. When I said, oh, this sounds a lot like Kubernetes. Yeah, that's why Kubernetes is called Kubernetes. It is named after cybernetics. Very quickly, what is cybernetics? It's basically, in this realm, it's basically, you have a complex adaptive system. Lots of thingamajigs that do stuff. And if you do stuff to them, they will respond and do stuff to you or to each other or whatever. And then you have some kind of controlling entity, and it will be sensing how's things going with all of my little bots, and if something is bad or wrong or something, it can make changes in the environment and changes to these things. If this sounds like Kubernetes, it's because it's Kubernetes, right? These are pods, and you have the, yeah, okay, yes. But they made this up before Kubernetes. All right, they want Kubernetes for people. And for teams, well, not for people, oh, I forgot. They don't like people. For teams, because talking is monolithic behavior. Anyway, back. Conway's law. This might be the part that pissed me off the most, because I actually think that Conway's law is interesting. But they have totally misrepresented it and then weaponized it to a degree that is infuriating. All right, but we will get back to that. First, we need to talk a little bit about this book. All right. So before we can begin, we need to take away everything that is other people's thoughts. That is very difficult from this book, because the book is basically only other people's thoughts. That is why you can open the book at any page and find something you agree with. It's not because you agree with this book, it's because this book is 90% somebody else's book, right? And you know that just by the sheer amount of references. The references, they had to go down like at least 2 or 3 in font size just to get all the references, and there's still like 15 pages or something. And the book isn't long. All right? So it's mostly other people's thoughts. Yeah, so most of the book is quoting other people or paraphrasing other people. Mostly, a lot of quoting people out of context and then pretending like these people agree with them. And then otherwise mostly listing up common practice. So just stuff we do. That is just everybody does. It's not really interesting, it's just normal. And that's what took me like 180 posts on Mastodon or whatever to realize, is that this is actually a weird combination of an attempt at a textbook and like a reorg manifesto, which is weird. Because it's a textbook for folks who don't know anything about tech organizations. Like if you, I realized this when I got to the part that was about platform teams. Because I'm not like, I know a little bit about platform stuff and I do some platform stuff, but I don't feel that it is something that I know, like I'm very good at. So I wrote on Mastodon, okay, yeah, we're gonna do platforms now, so if anybody has any feedback, just speak up, because this is not my specialty, right? And then I read the 4 pages about platforms, and it was extremely shallow. Like, it was ridiculously shallow. It was basically, yeah, and then it's like, nobody who ever works on platforms will find these 4 pages interesting or enlightening or learn anything. This is like an encyclopedia entry, right? It's not interesting. And then I wrote, like as I was writing my yelly post, this whole thread is very yelly, by the way. As I was writing it, I said, this is more like an executive summary of what is a platform team. And I was like, that's what this book is. This book is an executive summary on what is a tech organization. 90% of it, that's what it is. And those 90%, they did not make up. Like, they made up some new words and stuff, but 90% is just stuff going back 40 years in tech. Problem I think I have is that I actually read a lot of tech books. That's how I ended up reading this tech book. All right. The problem is there are original thought in here, and they are really bad. All right, so what are those original thoughts? So if you can imagine that all of this is like stuff inside of the book, we have down here our original thoughts. It's not a lot. And the problem is that they're not really original thoughts either, because they didn't actually make those up either. But they are a big part of their reasoning, of their logic. All right, so let's talk about those. So we have here our little friends. One here is called Conway's Law. One is called the Spotify model. One is called cognitive load and Dunbar's number. Now, if you haven't read the book, this makes no sense. But the thing is, this is their entire basis of the entire logic structure for this entire reorg, which is the reason why we have to talk about it. Because if this shit don't hold, none of it holds. So let's go. All right, first, Spotify model. That's basically just, we want to do a reorg and Spotify is cool. There's a lot of that in the book. Like, it's like Google does this. Google does SRE, Google is cool, you should do SRE. That's Amazon does this. Amazon is cool, you should do like Amazon. It's basically the entire book is like some company does something, you should do that. But this is super important because Spotify comes up throughout the entire book. And basically every chapter and sometimes multiple times per chapter. And that is based on basically 2 blog posts and a slide set. And I'm not kidding. If you look in the references section, they reference 2 blog posts and a slide set. I refer to this in my entire thread as the Spotify blog post. It's not 1, it's 2, but The thing is, that is problematic. But a fundamental part of the Spotify problem, which we will get back to, we don't want people talking. They have a good reason, but there is no talking. All right, so then we come to the wonderful thing of cognitive load. This is basically you can't handle thinking. It's too hard, you should stop thinking. We should make sure you don't have to think. That's really, your little brains can handle all the thinking. And a part of the thinking is talking, like knowing other people, very hard. Conway's Law is basically we're going to make a new software architecture by reorging your organization. That is the whole premise of the entire book. That is what the book is about. The idea here is that I'm going to sit here as like king and decide what the architecture should be. Okay, anybody want to guess what the architecture should be? Yeah, see? All right, yes, we're going to make microservices. Now, how can you force an organization to make microservices? Right? We don't want anybody talking, right? We want APIs. If people talk, it's going to be monolithic. Those are the only 2 options we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to Okay, we're good? All right, we're back. Okay, so this whole, wait, let's let the woman work. All right, so basically this whole book, this whole book is a weaponization of Conway's Law, but it isn't really, and we'll get back to that. But basically, no talking, okay? And then finally, Dunbar's number, you can't handle people, all right? So no talking. Too many people, too much talking. All right, another wonderful quote from the book, something must be wrong if the teams are communicating. Sure. Okay. Anyway, Conway's Law. What is the problem with their use of Conway's Law? Mischaracterization. All right. This is going to, just because people are going to be defensive on the internet, we will have to do some reading. I will read out loud. All right? I'm also dyslexic, so if I skip words, just be nice. All right. One of the things that really, really annoyed me is that they constantly misrepresent what Conway actually said. And I will show you one example to show you kind of what this looks like. All right, so first I'm going to read you what Conway said in the actual article where Conway's Law is from, right? And then I'm going to read what they think it means. Okay, Conway. Because the design which occurs first is almost never the best possible, the prevailing system concept may need to change. Therefore, flexibility of organization is important to effective design. So, one thing that's kind of important to point out here is when he says design, you can think like architecture or program or system or whatever. So it's basically, what are we making? All right, team topology. Conway's Law tells us that we need to understand what software architecture is needed before we organize our teams. Have I told you I wrote like 2 entire rage threads about this book? Okay, but I'm never going to read it again. I'm done. All right. So what is Conway's Law, right? Because you might not be familiar with it, and it is actually interesting, right? This isn't a law, it is an observation from his experience. But I think to a certain degree, I think all of us have had similar experiences. So it is, organizations which design systems, in the broad sense used here, are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structures of these organizations. That sounds kind of complicated, but it basically means that if your team and this other team don't talk, you will make 2 different things, and those 2 things will have to figure out how to talk. Right? That's how we tend to do things, because it's kind of hard to collaborate about one thing if we are not talking. All right? This isn't revolutionary for anyone outside of the tech industry, that it is hard to collaborate with people we're not talking to. Just saying. Anyway, but that is a quote from the article I'll show you in a bit, but this is like the representation of Conway's Law as represented in the Wikipedia article about Conway's Law. All right, okay. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. So what did he actually say in that article? And this is a much longer quote, but it's really important, all right? Okay, so I'm gonna read it. The basic thesis of this article is that organizations which design systems in the broad sense used here are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structures of these organizations. So this is Conway's Law, right? We have seen that this fact has important implications for the management of system design. Primarily, we have found a criterion for the structuring of design organizations. A design effort should be organized according to the need for communication. Basically, you can read the article, like it's not long. Basically, he says in the article that, because it's kind of old, right? So basically the idea, it's an upfront design idea, right? And so you have your initial idea of the architecture, and then based on that initial idea of an architecture, you're going to set down subgroups that are going to take each part of like the modules or parts of the architecture. But then it turns out that wasn't right. We shouldn't have done it that way. But what he argues in that article is that unless you change those groups, the architecture will become like that, because those are the people who are talking, right? So the entire article is about the fact that you need to have a flexible organization so that you can change things around when you realize it was wrong. That is the whole point. Okay, next, continuation. This is in the conclusions. You don't even have to read the whole thing. You can just scroll to conclusion. This criterion creates problems because the need to communicate at any time depends on the system concept in effect at that time. So what we currently think the architecture will be, right? Because the design, which occurs first, is almost never the best possible, the prevailing system context may need to change. Therefore, flexibility of organization is important for effective design. All right, this is the opposite of team topology. Team topology says you decide, okay. The thing is, it was really easy for them because they only have one architecture. So if there's only one architecture, it's like everything is going to be a microservice, then it's fine. Okay, but basically, the whole idea here is how can you force an organization to create microservices? You make teams that are not allowed to talk to each other. That is the whole idea. All right, yes. So the article is called How Do Committees Invent, from 1968. But just to kind of nail down some of the things that he says. He says a design effort should be organized according to the need for communication. This is kind of important because it's the opposite of team topology. The need to communicate at any time depends on the system concept in effect at that time. Also the opposite of team topology. It says that your needs to communicate are spontaneous, right? They are your needs to communicate. It's not dictated by some architecture. It's your need to communicate. The design, which occurs first, is almost never the best possible. That is also kind of contrary to the fact that you have to know the design before, because you have to make the teams according to that design. The prevailing system concept may need to change. Okay, I would actually, as a person who's been doing this thing for a while, I would say that the prevailing system concept will always need to change. All right? No matter how much we think we future-proof this shit, we never do, all right? It always needs to change. Flexibility of organization is important to effective design. Okay, all of these points, which were made in the very 2 paragraphs in the previous slide, contradict everything in team topology. But they spend the entire book using Conway's name in vain to advocate for this, which annoys me. All right, I'm done with that. We're good. Next thing that annoys me, cognitive load. All right. So I hated this last year when I read the book. This year, I made the mistake of actually going and reading the article where this term comes from. And I found it very interesting in the beginning, and then absolutely ridiculous. The thing is, this is by a psychologist, and what the thing that he is looking at is translated to programming speak, is basically looking at the difference in how juniors and seniors solve problems. That is like the field of study here. And he refers to previous experimental evidence. This is, again, old, right? This is from 1988. But he has some things that I found very interesting. So how many of people play chess? Like, even badly? Like, yeah, okay, good. All right, I don't even think my husband and my son would say that I play chess badly. I am actually below that. I barely know the moves, right? So when they play chess with me, I just basically just randomly move shit around. Like, you know, nice thing is computer programs now won't let you do something that's not legal move, right? So I'm good. They have strategies, right? So what this paper concludes is that it takes less mental effort for people to solve problems the way I do when I play chess versus the way they do when they play chess. Now, I can say that is true, right? I have zero mental effort in just going like, ooh, I'll just do this, right? They have lots of mental effort trying to figure out like 5 moves ahead. Yes, yes. Do I find this interesting? No, at all, no. Do I do this? Yes. Like sometimes, you know, I've tried like 15 different things to fix my bug or to figure out what my bug is, and I'm desperate and I'm tired, and it's like 3:30 in the afternoon, and I start doing stupid stuff, right? I start just doing random stuff, thinking something, you know, something. I call this throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. It has zero mental effort, and I'm just hoping it'll work. This is not interesting science. Maybe it is in psychology, I don't know. I don't care, it's not interesting. Yes, it takes more mental effort to actually think. Yes, I will grant you this point. That's not at all what they mean in this book when they say cognitive load. Okay, so if you want to read the paper, it's called Cognitive Load During Problem-Solving Effects on Learning by John Sweller, 1988. It has some really interesting stuff in the beginning and a really silly thing in the middle. In the middle, he basically postulates that he can, oh, well, I'm not going to get into it. I can tell you later if you want to know. Anyway. Yeah, so this paper coined this term. It has zero relation to how it is used in the book. Apparently, it's not only the book, because it turns out they didn't read the paper. I didn't realize that until after I read the paper, that they read somebody else's blog post about the paper. So you know, whatever. Okay, so yeah, cognitive load is basically the effort it takes to think about how to solve a problem rather than just trying stuff. Yeah, I'm sure you are now. You feel enlightened. Okay, good. All right. The book uses it completely differently. The book uses the term as a thinly veiled condescension. Basically, don't bother your pretty little head with that. You know, it's basically talking about developers. I think it is developers, because developers are the people who kind of come up, but then they say these are cross-functional teams, but nobody else is really talked about this way, and they are not very bright. Like, that is definitely like the vibe you're getting from this book. They're not very bright, and they can't handle all this information, and you have to like shield them. It's basically like a horse. Like, you have those little blinders on. You have to put those on the people. They can't handle all this information and all these people and all of this like monolithic behavior, right? Talking and stuff. It's infuriating. It's really infuriating. Extremely condescending, and makes me angry. Like everything in this book. All right, now we're done with that. Next one, Dunbar's number. Okay, this is probably the dumbest, in my opinion. All right, they use this number to decide team size. Or they pretend to use this number to decide team size, but actually the thing that decided team size is the fact that Amazon did a thing. It's true. I'll show you. All right. So what is the problem? Misapplication. Also the fact that number is silly. All right. All right. So it is just a made-up thing. It's not. There's nothing. It's the silliest thing. Okay. I will read from the Wikipedia page. This number was first proposed in the 1990s by Robin Dunbar, a British anthropologist who found a correlation between primate brain size and average social group size. I think it was based on chimpanzees. I'm not kidding. And like watching chimpanzees. By using the average human brain size and extrapolating from the results of primates, he proposed that humans can comfortably maintain 150 stable relationships. Basically, he looked at chimpanzees, and then he measured the size of their brain, and then he decided that our brains are bigger, so we can handle more people. I just can't. I cannot. And there's a whole big section about like controversy and criticism on Wikipedia, and you can go read it, and I'm not going to go there. Okay, so even if we accept it, let's say that we pretend that this is not bullshit science. It is bullshit science, okay? But if we pretend like it is not bullshit science, all right? These are the categories they list in the book, all right? First category, 5 people. These are like the way that they say it in the book, they say close personal relationships. But these are the people that you would trust with your life, right? These are the people that you are closest to in your entire like world, all right? How many people have those people in their team? Like they're probably in your house or like come regularly to your house, right? These are probably your family, your close friends, whatever, right? Your like your significant other, right? These are not your teammates, all right? So that's like the 5 number. It's out the window. The 5 number, by the way, this number is the basis for team size in the book. They say team size has to be 5 because 5 is the Dunbar number, and then they just say Dunbar number and whatever. All right, second one. 15 people, deep trust. Okay, so the 15 people that you trust the most probably includes the other 5, right? We're probably still at family and friends, right? All right, let's go to the next one. 50, mutual trust. Now we're talking, right? Now we might have some people at work. But probably a lot of these people are not at work still, right? All right, then we come to 150 people, people whose capabilities we can remember. I don't know if I can remember the capabilities of 150 people. I don't know. Don't test me. Okay, but the point here is that even if it wasn't bullshit science, this number 5 is useless, all right? These 5 people are not in your team. But this is used in a very typical type of reasoning that happens in the book. And that is like this. It goes like, Dunbar's number says we can only trust 5 people. Psychological safety, they don't actually say that, but that's what they mean, but they stole it through another person's blog post again, so whatever. It's Amy Edmondson. She has like really good research. You should read her. Anyway, psychological safety concludes that trust is critical for team excellence. That's actually not what she says, and that's why I have all these stars, but whatever, okay? Dunbar's number says we can only trust 5 people. Psychological safety concludes that trust is critical for team excellence. Therefore, team excellence requires a team size of 5 to 9. Okay, why 9? Because Amazon said something about 2 pizzas. On the next page is 8. I don't know why. Okay, maybe somebody eats too much pizza. Somebody on Mastodon said that the 9th person was probably a woman and she was erased. It's fine. Whatever. Okay, so it's fine. All right. So the problem with this type of reasoning, and this is typical for the entire book, Dunbar number is trash, right? Psychological safety actually does not say anything about team size, right? It says something about team culture, and it's super interesting, and you should read about it. The size of 2 pizzas is not science, all right? I cannot, with this book. Okay, done. Spotify model. Problem? Okay. Misinterpretation. Spotify didn't do the Spotify model. And my joke for this book is that this book is what happens if you take what they call the inverse Conway maneuver, which is the weaponization of Conway, and the blogspot, and they like had a Spotify blog post, and it had like a baby. That's this book, right? But the thing is, Spotify didn't use the Spotify model. It was just like a thing they were thinking about and taking, and just like it was thinking out loud about. They did try, and they had really bad results. Also, this was 10 years ago, right? And also, they were trying to solve a problem that basically nobody has. They had a company that was hyperscaling with a product in production. So imagine that this is your organization. You probably have some kind of product in production, at least one, right? Imagine that management came to you tomorrow and said, we're going to, in the next 3 months, we're going to double the size of your of all of your engineers. How do you absorb those, like how are you going to train them? How are you going to mentor them? How is that not going to affect the product you have in production? You can't have all of these people just suddenly started committing to the code base, doing all sorts. They don't know anything, right? This is crazy. That Spotify realized this is nuts. And they're going like, this doesn't work. We need to they cannot be messing around with our production system. They don't know anything. And so they built a wall between the people who were currently maintaining the product that was in production, and all of these new people had no idea what they were doing. Because they needed all the small group, because this thing happened multiple times, right? They went from 5 to 250, and then they went from 1,000 to 3,000 in short periods of time, so like a year or 2. This is ridiculous amounts of growth, where you have a very tiny group that's trying to maintain what is in production. All right. You don't have hyperscaling problems. You don't care about the Spotify model. Also, they don't know anything about architecture, which is a problem. Anyway, I can't with this whole microservices thing, all right? You know your architecture. Stop trying to read it about people who don't know anything in books. All right. Can we force an organization to produce microservices by restricting communications? I'm sure you can. If you really, really try, if you make sure that all of them sit in different buildings and they are on, one is on chat, one is on Teams, and one is on Slack, and they're not allowed to talk to each other, I'm sure you can force them to make microservices. Is this a good thing? I don't think so. Also, I think that an organization can make microservices and still be talking to each other. You know? You know why I think that? Because we've been doing that shit for 10 fucking years. That's why. Also, restricting communication is harmful. So what is this book, right? What is it about? So what if we took everything written about software development ever and shook it a bit and copy-pasted it into a book? If you did that, that's what this book is. It's an introduction to modern tech organization for managers. And the thing is, my problem here, fundamentally, is anyone who needs to read this book to understand how tech orgs work does not have the requisite knowledge to perform any kind of reorg. If you don't know how a tech org works and you have to read this book to figure that out, you cannot reorg your organization. You are not competent to do that. All right. Because the basic idea is if we force people to stop talking to each other while we make sure that their products have to continue to collaborate, what are they going to build, right? They have to find some kind of abstraction to talk to each other because they are not allowed to talk to each other. So, what are you doing? It's very annoying. Anyway, also this idea of like a team API, you're not allowed to talk to people. Do you know how expensive that is? Like, if you have to sit down and you have to thoroughly document every freaking microservice API that you have in your entire organization, do you actually have 20 people who are hired full-time to do technical writing? It's like nobody does. Technical writers are awesome, by the way. I love them. But nobody has them anymore, right? This is extremely expensive. You have to have developer advocates per team. You have to have UX per team. You have to have product managers per team, and not just for your public-facing stuff. You have to now have it for all of your internal stuff because you're not allowed to talk to anybody. So the point, I think, here is more of rolling all of this back, because I think it's really important to realize why is this bad and why is this harmful. And that gets to how do you actually get good at this, right? Making stuff. You get, like, the pro tip for getting shit done in an organization is knowing other people outside of your team. So how do you get to know other people? You help them. So when they write something on Slack and they need help about anything, you help them. Next time, you know somebody. You can talk to them. Next time, they know you. They can talk to you. You build like a network, and you don't do networking by going to an event. You do networking by helping other people, and then they help you out, and this is how you become a 10x developer. You become a 10x developer not because you are a 10x developer, but because you know people who can help you with stuff, right? Who can explain how this thing works, because they know you, and you're nice, and they like you. You do that by talking to people and helping them. Not because they're going to do something for you right now, but because it's being nice. And then maybe one day it's good. It's not hard. When they ask something, answer. And, if you need to do something in their code base and they can't help you because they don't have time, they might actually bother to help you. Like, okay, I can't do it for you, but I can make a PR and I'll look at it for you. And we can try to figure it out together. It's not hard, but it requires actually talking to people. Monolithic behavior. And how do we get good as a group, right? What have we learned in the past 20 years of doing this computer stuff? To build good things, we need to talk to others. And we have learned this in various ways. Agile was all about talking to the customer, talking to our users, talking to everybody. User experience, we need to go talk to our users. Product management, we actually need to go talk to our users. Did you hear me the first or second or third time? All right. We need to build things fast. And to build things fast and to ship things fast, we need to talk to each other. That's what DevOps was about. It's like really monolithic behavior about actually figuring out that we need to talk to each other. So the problem isn't that we talk too much. It's that we don't talk enough with the right people. And they don't get it. So that's my last slide for today. And all I have to say is thank you for coming. Don't write on LinkedIn that I'm brave, because it freaks me out. Thank you so much.